G'day everyone. Thought I'd pop in for another chat at a different time for you guys so you can get on to basically asking me questions and things like that. We're going to have a little discussion about Tamron lenses as well. But I do like to pop in different times. Obviously I'll be back again on Friday at the normal time, but I wanted to pop on for you guys, particularly in Europe, that usually miss out on the live chats, and even the Australians sometimes it's better for them around about now, because what is it, we're now at nearly 5 o'clock Melbourne time, so I'm going to open up the thing to see who's popping in live and we'll have a chat. So we've got Barry here at the moment, Haas is here, Memories by Satyam I think it is, from India, Tom's also here, Ben Ashford. G'day Ben, how you going? What am I going to open? Just a Fanta tonight with you. I'm trying to behave. I've been editing and things like that. Just posted an interesting thing about the iPhone. Let me know if you've watched it, because I'd love to know what you think. It was quite interesting how good the photos were out of the iPhone X. I was using, the iPhone X Max, and it's actually quite good. Like when you use it, the last shoot that I did when it was in the canola fields, I was actually doing a test between the A7 III and the iPhone. It was just a comparison test, but I didn't use portraiture for that shoot. And I thought, well, while I was out the other day with Kiara, I thought I'll try some portrait shots. And so I shot them. And yeah, watch the video and let me know what you think. So who else? I'm going to change my glasses just so I can read this properly. So who else have we got? We've got Philip is here from Florida. Hope you've all voted today, you guys. Lewis is here as well, first time in Portugal. Mark is here. Sam's also here. James, what's up, family? Sam said, now I can't sleep. Love it, lads. Steeped in Light says, regards from Big D, Dallas. DL says, hi from Arizona. Burgess, hey to all. James said, Houston. Chris says, hello, David, a late Corona coffee in Los Angeles. Cheers. Good morning, everyone. See, everyone's popping in at all different times. So what is it roughly in London? It's roughly in London 6 o'clock, I think, in the morning. LA's about 10 o'clock at night. So I suppose New York's going to be 1 or 2. Who else have we got? Savas is here. Good morning, everyone. N. Thomas saying greetings from North Carolina. Mike's also saying hello as well. Yeah, I've posted a couple of videos. I just posted one about the iPhone. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes for people to pop on. So if you can, give me a thumbs up, guys, because it does let people notify them online, particularly if they're not getting the notifications, which some people aren't. Scott's saying morning from Sweden. Philip said, you know it, almost ended bad, but things worked out. Was that the election? I wouldn't know. We're from Australia. We don't really know what's going on. By the way, too, I did post another video before the iPhone one. I posted one talking about the new Tamrons that could be coming out. Looks like it's going to be really interesting. I'm going to talk all about that very, very soon. James said, good morning from Central Scotland. Good morning, James. Between you and Ike, I can't sleep either. Jean says, hello, David, 11:30 p.m. here in Canada. Can't sleep either. Boy, we are all staying up. We're late night owls. I'm usually the opposite. I'm usually in bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock. And then I like to get up early. I don't really have any trouble sleeping that way like you guys. I'd be a zombie if I'd been, sort of 2 o'clock watching this sort of stuff. Reuben's here from Sydney. G'day, Reuben. How are you? Great to see some local people on the chat. That's why it's good to talk at a different time zone. I will be back at the normal time on Friday, which will be about 1 o'clock Melbourne time. So stay tuned for that. That'll be more about the news and rumours, so it's a little bit different to this. This is only going to have a talk about Tamron lenses today, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. Waiting for a dislike. Have I got any yet? No, I haven't. It's crazy. I've been getting so many dislikes lately. It's been cracking me up. I've still got to do that video to show you some of the comments. Mark's saying 4 p.m. here. Great timing. Where are you from, Mark? Altrix saying hello. Miralus is saying 1 a.m. New York sleepy time. Brandon's also evening from Alberta, Canada. Brisbane, that's right. Bris Vegas, that's right. Venom said, the 3 dislike voters haven't showed up yet. I know. Hi, David. Doing better tonight. Had a tornado outbreak last night in Mississippi. Oh, boy, went right above me. Oh, that's terrible. At least you're good, Gary. That's one thing I'm glad we don't get here is tornadoes. That's for sure. Yeah, I know the downlikes, they crack you up. They really think that they're hurting you, but it just cracks me up. They don't realise that they've still had to view the thing or open it to give a downlike. You're still going to get paid. It cracks me up. It really does. It just makes me laugh. Like sometimes I'll put the video up and it gets a downlike within about 10 seconds. And I know they haven't possibly watched the video. There's so many haters out there, though. It really does crack me up. I mean, it might worry younger YouTubers and stuff like that. I just laugh it off, just like the really horrible questions that people put, or saying, you know, you're not a photographer, and I'd be embarrassed if you were a bride and you'd shot my wedding. You won't believe some of the ones I'm going to show you. You'll laugh your head off. I just laugh at them. I usually show Kerry and we have a chuckle together. Mina She, I think it is saying, hello, David from India. Wow, we have got a lot. All right, guys, let's cross over to the OC Images sign, and then I'm going to get started with the show today because I only want to be on about an hour, and then I'll be having dinner. The haters probably voted on Tony's test. Probably, Mark. It wouldn't surprise me at all. See you in a minute. Good afternoon, everyone. Popping in for a different chat for obviously my European viewers and also Aussie viewers. So it's a different time zone, obviously, to when I talk on the Fridays, which is around 1 p.m. Melbourne time on Friday, which sort of works better for the US viewers. So this is, I mean, we've got a lot of US viewers actually in here. But this is obviously so some of the Europeans can pop on and also some of the Aussies can pop on if they're just home from work. It's 5 p.m. Melbourne time here. Anyway, so I just thought we'd open it up today for a bit of a Q&A. I'm just going to do a brief talk about Tamron because there's a couple of things that I wanted to mention. I did post a couple of videos back that spoke about the new 70-200 coming from Tamron. Well, they've basically put a patent out. So I'd say it probably is going to hit sometime next year. And I suppose we're very fortunate now. What this means is, and like I said in the video, that if it's anything like the quality that I'm dealing with the Tamron 28-75, I'm really looking forward to it. And it really does quite excite me. I know from all the reviews of that lens that it is a very, very good lens. It's only available at this stage for Canon and Nikon. And that does get very good reviews. Now, I'm not certain whether Tamron are just going to bolt on the adapter at the end like Sigma have, or whether there's going to be a little bit of a redesign coming in. And that's one thing that we're going to have to wait and see when it's announced. But still, the price difference alone may make it worthwhile. And if it is able to be updated through the Sony cameras like what the 28-75 is, and I'm sure that probably will happen as Sony owns part of Tamron, it'll be interesting to see what those lenses are like. I'm so happy with the way the 28-75 is, and if the 70-200 is just the same, and I'm sure that you're going to get a 16-35 or around that focal length range as well. It's very, very exciting. Like I've said to you now, we have so many options in the Sony side that we really are now starting to be very blessed in the lens selection that we can actually choose. And if people can't afford to get the G Master lenses, or even the 70-200 f4 that I have, if you could get a Tamron 70-200mm lens, you're looking at another great option that we could get as well. And obviously, like I said to you, I think the next one down the line will be something like the 16-35 lens as well. But I did notice that on Sony Alpha Rumors that they're actually saying here it's an SR3. And I do think these lenses are probably going to eventuate, but it's saying here that there's rumours, or first rumours, about a Tamron 100-400mm lens coming out. Now, you've got to remember, though, that this isn't a constant aperture, so this is a 4.5 to 6.3 lens, so it is a variable aperture lens, but over that focal length, I think it's only about $799 in the US. It's a very reasonably priced lens. If you're looking at getting something in that focal length and you can't afford to get the G Master, obviously. Now, having that focal length of 4.5 to 6.3 probably isn't going to be an issue anyway. I think the G Master is, I know that's variable as well, isn't it? The 100 to 400. I was thinking it was constant, but it's not. That's also variable because I've used that and it is a variable lens. I think it's the same, a 4.5 to 6.3 as well. Someone in the chat might be able to let me know. Let me just open that up and just see if this is also a variable aperture. Yes, 4.5 to 5.6. So the aperture of this one is a little bit better. You can see over here that it's 4.5 to 5.6. So the G Master is a little bit better in the long end. Obviously, as you zoom in, you'll go to the 6.3 on the Tamron. So if you're at 400 mil, you're going to get 6.3. That separation is still pretty good if you're dealing at 400 mil though. But obviously the price difference is going to be massive. And the other one, like someone was saying back here in the chat, that we're talking also, they announced that they do a 150 to 600 mil lens as well. So we're really starting to be blessed in those lenses. But this may interest you, particularly if you're shooting sports or wildlife and you don't want to be paying the price of the G Master when you think the price that they're going to offer this, probably around the same price, which is that $7.99 US dollars, is really quite a bargain if you compare it to what you'll pay for the G Master, which is a couple of $1,000s, I think. Let me just open that up. I've got to be careful I don't show prices because Amazon don't like it if you show prices, because I'm one of their affiliates, obviously, and it goes against the terms of service. Yeah, it's over $2,000. So it's really way more expensive. I'm not sure. I haven't used that lens, and so I don't know what the reviews are like on that lens. So it's going to be interesting to wait and see what's available. But like I said, now we're looking at, say, having the 70 to 200 probably sometime next year. The 16 to 35 may be late or something next year, and now they're also saying that they're looking at, well, there's a rumour of the 100 to 400, and obviously Tamron also said in that same time it was a 150 to 600 as well. So really exciting time, guys. I mean, if you do like having options, you can't afford to have the G Master lenses, or you don't want the weight, particularly like with the 28 to 75, that sort of tackles the G Master 24 to 70. If you don't want to carry around that weight, the Tamrons really are a great lens to have, and really for the quality you're getting, they're quite a bargain. So let's open up the chat. I've got plenty that we could also discuss. You may want to ask some things about the Sony Color Science that I posted the other day, talking about what Tony Northrup said about that. You may want to talk about that. Also, you might want to have some questions about the Tamron, which you might find interesting as well. Apart from that, just open that up to anything. We can fire away, and I'll just stay here for a little bit and we can have a chat. Like I said, I love these little chats. It's like a group of mates sitting around having a chat around the table. There's no coffee today. I'm just drinking Fanta. So let's see. I don't know how many we're going to get in because it's a different time zone, and I only gave 10 minutes notice, so it's going to be interesting. But Mark said also here, we're talking about downvotes. How I haven't got any downvotes yet, but I'm sure I will. They're saying it's probably from Tony's test. Boy, did the Canon shooters jump on that one. For some reason, and this is the really interesting thing, every time you mention Sony or whatever, they immediately bring up this color science, and they always say Sony Color Science. And like I've said, it's a load of falafel. There's no problem at all if you shoot with RAW. It really is. There's no problem at all. But they keep harping down that, and Tony basically proved it with that video that he posted yesterday, because it was a blind test, and in the end, everyone liked Sony Color the best. And I have to say, the interesting thing is that if you look at the Sony Color profile, it is neutral. And that's a really good thing. And why I'm saying that is because being neutral, you can go either way very, very easily, and you can match the Sony to the Canon if you want to, or you can also match the Sony more easily to things like if you were trying to match the color of a dress, or if you can trying to match the color of a car or whatever. That PDN article that I showed you said that the Sonys were ahead, and that's because they do have a neutral profile. They're not pushing their colors towards one end, which is what Canon tends to do, pushing everything up to the warmer side, which is why everyone says they love their skin tone so much. But you can easily get that look with the Sonys as well. So that's the interesting thing about it. So when Canon or these lovers are always saying yes, but the Canon color science is actually flawed, because it's not actually correct, because it's not neutral. They've biased it to give that warm look that people do tend to prefer. But like I said, it's something that you can easily get. Now, obviously, they're still not accepting that video that Tony put up. They're coming up with all of these things. Yes, but it was flawed and this and that. They just don't understand that the second Tony mentioned cameras, everyone's opinion changed. So when they said it was Canon, all the Canon people moved to Canon, the Sony people did, the Fuji people did, and it was showing how biased everyone is by name. And that was the interesting thing about that. When they took the names off, they all picked Sony, or 96% or 2% did, which was really interesting. Anyway, I'm going to open it up to the chat and we can just see what people actually say. Damn, I want that 70 to 200 now. It's probably a lens that I'll look at too, Ron. Like I've said to you before, I've got the 70 to 200 f4. I don't want the G Master. It's not the cost for me. It's more the weight and stuff like that. Now, I'll have to wait and see how much the Tamron weighs. But it certainly may be another option for me. And I'm just hoping they do a redesign or something and they do it like what the 28 to 75 mil is. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Either way, though, if I don't buy it, it gives the option of others to be able to go out and buy that, because the G Master is very, very expensive. So if you can't afford the G Master and you can get, say, a Tamron 70 to 200 2.8 lens, that really could change the way you shoot. Because remember, most, say, particularly for events and things like that, most people that are shooting events will shoot with a 70 to 200 and a 24-70 and a 16 to 35. That's what I always used to shoot with until I moved on to shooting mostly primes. But they are like the holy trinity of the lenses that you can have. So if you can buy a completely cheap option of 2.8 lenses and you've got that 16 to 35, the 70 to 200, and the 24-70 or 28 to 70, you've got that holy trinity of lenses there, which will be fantastic. Joe said, hi David, 1 a.m. in Florida. Thanks for watching, Joe. Tamron 70 to 200 FE must have a focus hole button. If this is launched among an FE 15 to 35 2.8, I would trade my GM for these two. Interesting. Yeah, and that's the thing. You would be able to buy the two lenses for the price that you pay for one GM, and that's why I'm saying it's very reasonable if you want to go down that Tamron line to have 2.8 lenses that really will be very, very good. If you read the reviews of this Tamron 70 to 200, that is an excellent lens. So don't think they're not good lenses. They are. They're excellent. Everyone that bags this lens doesn't know what they're talking about. In the middle, particularly, this is sharper than the G Master. It's not as sharp on the edges. Yes, I agree. It's not. But the way I shoot, that doesn't matter. I'm shooting portraits. I don't really care if it's not quite as sharp on the edges. But if you're doing dead center, it's amazing. You know, and the weight of lugging this around is just beautiful. The focus, the macro on this, because you can almost shoot macro, is outstanding. I love that lens. I really do. In fact, I love it so much that I keep that on my camera now. When I do weddings on one camera, and the other camera, I will use the prime lenses like the 35 1.4, the 85 Batis, the 70 to 200 f4 obviously, and the 16 to 35 if I need those lenses. But I'm keeping the 28 to 75 on that camera for the whole day. I did a wedding shoot, I did a dance shoot over the weekend, which was from 9 a.m. in the morning until 6 at night. It's a massive shoot for me. And I used that basically for the whole day. And you know what? I didn't have a sore back at all. I guarantee if I was holding a heavier lens, I would have. Let me just reduce this light a bit too. I'm going to tone it down just a touch. And it's just changed the way I shoot. I just love it. Mark said, I wish Sigma would do something about their 100 to 600 for Sony mount. Yeah, and I think it was 100 600 that Tamron mentioned they were going to do. I'm sure it was, Mark. John says, good morning from Belgium. Good morning, John. DL said, David, just received my B10 the other day. Oh, fantastic. You must be loving it. And no divorce papers so far. Do you use Profoto gel holder, then attach OCF Octa to the gel holder? Yes, the way it works is you actually have the gel holder. I'll try and grab one just so I can show you, because it might be interesting to DL. Just bear with me for a second. So these are actually the gel holders here. Now you get the kit basically that looks like this. So that's what the actual kit looks like, and you also get these as well. I think they came with it, or did I buy that separately? I can't remember. But all you basically do is Profoto put out these gels that you can get, and then basically all you do, say for instance you wanted to use this gel, I'll just see if I can get it off. All you do is you take off that front panel, then this sits inside like this. Just let me put it down because I always have trouble doing it otherwise. So it sits in like that, and then that holder then just clips back on like that. Then all you do, I'll just grab the light. Now my B10's locked away, but I can show you on the B1. All you do then is you actually just grab that and it just pushes on the front like that. So that's it. Basically that's just how they work. I'd have to put it down and push it on. But, you know, it works fantastic. And if you wanted to, then you can actually have that and put that on the inside and have it with a grid as well, so that you can control the amount of light that comes out. I'll show you a couple of the other ones because you might be interested. Should have brought the bag in. So you've also got the snoot. So if you wanted to run a snoot through it, you can actually attach that onto the front as well. So now these will work probably with that as well. So you just attach the snoot on there. And the other thing which is really good as well is this, which is your barn doors. If you want to use barn doors on these, it works exactly the same way. So then if you put that in there, then you can obviously use the barn doors as well. So they have great attachments that you can actually run. These are fantastic. It's such a great system, the way that this actually works. And, you know, everything all locks in together. And there's all other ones you can buy as well. But that's basically how the gels work, DL. So let me just put this down. So I hope that answered your question about using the gels, but the gel holders are fantastic. They really are fantastic. Mark said, let's bury the colour science discussion. We all grade anyhow. Exactly, Mark. Steeped in Light Photography said, David, do you or anyone else here have info on how the Tamron 70 to 200 current version IQ compares to the Sony 70 to 200 GM in your work? Well, I've never done a direct comparison because I haven't had that lens. I've only gone by reviews of that lens. And if you look at the reviews of that lens, it is incredibly sharp. I've seen reviews. I used to have the 70 to 200. I know Ben, who was watching earlier, has the 70 to 200 and adores it. The Nikon version, I've heard it's just as good as the latest Nikon version. So I have heard from, you'd have to go and check reviews out, but that's the only thing I can say because I haven't used it myself, that lens. But I have heard from reviews that the optical quality of the Tamron is excellent. So let's keep going down. Jean said, use the Godox light stick app. My shoot last weekend worked pretty well. That's great. I must see if I can get one of those to try it out, Jean. The barn doors on it are fine, but really got that plastic thing going on, yeah. And look, I suppose that's the difference. The price difference, it's never going to match what you'll get with an ice light. Because you're paying, you get what you pay for. But I suppose if you can't afford the ice lights, well then Godox obviously have that benefit. I suppose the benefit of the Godox though is they are colour, so you can control the colour temperature, which you can't do with the ice lights. You have to stick a foil on the ice lights. But yeah, I'm glad that it worked for you. I must try one and see how they work for me. Dwayne said, I love the work you do. Can you do a video on video settings, please? Also, do you think the A7R3 or the A9 might go on sale for the holidays? They may. Well, recently here in Australia, they were $1,000 off the A9. I think it was $1,400 off or some ridiculous figure like that. So they may come down for the holidays as well. There's been no more rumblings about any Sony cameras, so I'm starting to get a bit nervous it's not going to happen with the A7000 before Christmas. If it doesn't happen, they may offer some of those cameras. Obviously, the A7 III won't be on sale because they still can't meet demand for that camera. But you might find that the A7R3 and the A9 may go on sale, yes. I know here at the moment that there's actually... Sony are giving a voucher, a credit card for $500, I think, if you buy the A7R3. So there is a discount at the moment from Sony going on. Obviously not, I don't think it's with the A7 III though, it's just the A7R3 and the A9, etc., or lenses. John said, people will always find reasons to argue that their brand is better than others. It's like football supporters and their teams. Exactly. It's like car brands here. We have Holden and Ford, and they're always fighting off against each other when they're racing. Hamish said, how much is the Sony 70-200? Well, I can tell you Australian, it's about $3,700. So I'm not sure what it'll be US. It's probably high 2,000, probably 2.5, 2.6 or something. It's very, very expensive. So for the price that you're paying for a G Master 70-200, you could get a 70-200 Tamron and the 16-35 Tamron if they released it as well. That sort of gives you an idea about how much it is. And Thomas said, watch Tony's clip on colour. You are absolutely right about colour science. I know it's never been an issue. I posted that one ages ago, and it's interesting that it's just been picked up. Yeah, like I posted that one 12 months ago, probably longer. Brandon said, or Nikon Z's adding saturation to their photos off the start. Ben said, have to start lifting weights if you're going to get the 70-200 2.8 again. Yeah, I know. I don't know whether that one's as heavy though, Ben. I'm hoping they redesign it like the other Tamrons, but I'm not sure that will happen. I know I pick yours up and it weighs like it weighs a ton. John said more options for good lenses can only be applauded. I agree exactly with you, John. That's dead correct. Mark said, here is the issue recolor science. Once sending out graded pictures, the customer will then look at the photos on an uncalibrated screen, thus changing the look again. And the thing was, it's proven, Mark, that unless you're looking at images side by side, clients never care. And that's the interesting thing. No one ever gives an image of a Canon and a Sony shot together with the same image and then sent to the client. No one ever does that. Like I said, no client has ever complained about my color science at all. It's rubbish. I mean, I just posted an image on, what was it? It was on Facebook. I'll just show you a couple of these just so you can see. And you can't tell me that the colour science on these aren't any good. Where are we? Rated. I mean, if you look, I'm just bringing this up so we can see. Like, you can't tell me that Kiara's skin tone is not pretty there. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, it's just ridiculous, and they, like I said, all they ever talk about they try to basically bag Sony all the time, saying that the images are just not any good, and it's just not true. I mean, it really is not true that there's nothing wrong with the Sony skin colors, that you can't just move either one way or the other. It really is just a load of complete rubbish. It really is. And like I said, I've never had a client say to me that the skin tone doesn't look right. It's just a Canon user's thing, that they want something to whinge about, and I just ignore it. It's just ridiculous. What else have we got? Gene says, what are your thoughts on the new iPad Pros? Oops, I've got to update. Gene said, what are your thoughts on the new iPad Pros? I'm tempted to get one for video viewing photos. The occasional video editing with LumaFusion and media consumption. Yeah, I have an iPad Pro, but I have the earlier version, Gene. It's fine. I don't think it's ever going to replace a laptop as such. I really think if it was me buying a laptop or an iPad Pro at the moment, I'd probably go for the MacBook Air, which basically is the same, but you've got much more features in the MacBook Air than what you have for the iPad Pro. I'm not sure I understand why Apple have gone the way they have, pricing the iPad Pro, if you want to get a decent one, so high. What is there, $200 difference between an iPad Pro and a MacBook Air? So I think I'd get a MacBook Air over a MacBook Pro, over an iPad Pro. That's just me though. I mean, I have an iPad. Like I said, I've got the previous iPad Pro, and I don't use it that much. I still find that I like to use a keyboard, and I like to use the trackpad and things like that. The pen, I suppose, could be a bit handy if they do bring out a full version of Photoshop, but I still think I'd prefer to use the MacBook Air rather than a iPad Pro. But it might be just depend on how you like to use iPads. I definitely prefer the MacBook Air, especially with the new version that's just come out. It's quite powerful, that new version of that. Sam said, Sony 70-200 2.8 is $2,600 United States dollars. A lighter weight Tamron version for $1,500 United States dollars would be great. I would be all over it. Yeah, and it'd be interesting, wouldn't it, Sam, to see what that will be like. Dwayne says, I'm 6 foot, 225 pounds. 225 pounds. Lens weight doesn't bother me, my love. Love my 70-200 handheld with peak hand strap. Well, Ben's the same. He said he loves his favorite. It's his favorite lens as well. I used to lug that around as well, and I certainly don't miss lugging it around anymore now, doing weddings and things like that. But like I said, you young guys might not care about it. What else have we got? Benjamin says, morning from Texas. I would love to have a Tamron 100-400. Send me one, would ya? I'd like one myself. I like shooting. When I borrowed that 100-400 to shoot that portrait shoot, I really enjoyed using it. That was a GM version though, but I really did enjoy using it. Ben said, yep, 70-200 2.8 VR2 is by far away my favourite lens. Much sharper than my previous Sigma 70-200 2.8. Glenn is saying hi from England. Hi, Grandpa. Venturous Gaming has said. Oh, me? Yeah, I am a granddad. Russell says, does this mean the wide angle that was rumoured is no longer happening? Are you talking about Tamron's wide angle? I'm sure they're going to do it. I'm sure they'll bring out something in that 16-35 range. It's just a matter of waiting. And remember, Tamron are only a small company if you compare them to the size of Nikon, Sony, and Canon. So it takes them a while to get all these things moving. That's why they're still having trouble producing enough 28-75s. They're still hard to get even now. But I think you'll find that due to sales, particularly on that Tamron, that Tamron are really going to start supporting Sony a lot more now. And I think you'll find that they'll release more and more lenses in the coming months and years. Haz says, finally joined the Facebook group today, loving the positivity. I'm so glad, and it's a great site. What else have we got? Hey David, my question is not about lenses or camera, but I wanted to know if there was a specific LCD monitor for photo editing. I find it difficult to edit on my small screen or laptop. Thanks. Well, I'm using it. What is mine? I don't even know what the model is. I'm using an LG. It's a large one. I'll just go about because it might tell me what the model is. But I've had this for a while. I'm just using an LG ultra wide display. It's one of the 32 inches display. On this side to me over here, I've got a, I don't know whether I can bring this down to show you. Let me just see if I can fix the resolution on this. 1080p. So I'm using this is the Apple display, obviously. So I'm using this as my second monitor. That's for that. This one over here is just an LG. I don't know whether I can make this wide enough. I'm just using an LG widescreen that I use here that is color calibrated. And then obviously I've got a big TV. That's a 72 inch, or well, I can't remember. That's a big TV screen up there as well. That's on the wall just above me. And everything is basically calibrated by this. So I use my color calibration uses this. I use the X-Rite i1 display to do the color calibration. You just basically pull this off and then attach this to your monitor. So it basically just goes on like that. And then you run the calibration software and it calibrates your software. Once you've done that, you then close this lid down and you basically put it on to the table, and then it reads the ambient light and adjusts your monitor to suit if any lighting conditions change. So it keeps the calibrators, it keeps the calibration perfectly stable in all of your shots. So that's how I work, and that works really. It works really quite well. So that's what I tend to use nearly all the time for these monitors anyway. And because they're calibrated from that calibration tool, from this, it works great. I've got a warning on the top of my screen, so it'll tell me when it needs to be recalibrated. And I basically just do that, and it works fantastic. So, you know, everything works out really well. You can, if you're trying to match to prints and stuff like that, get your printer to send a target, and then you can start to match to that if you want to. But I find that it's good enough for me to have that check done that way. Now, what I tend to do, though, is I have on my first monitor, because I'm always calibrating on this first screen here in front of me, that's calibrated, and I don't calibrate the one that's to my left, the Apple monitor, because I want to see what the image looks like uncalibrated. And it's interesting to see how they vary and how much they do vary, because I like to see what other people are seeing basically out there, and it gives me more of an idea about what they'll see. So I like to do that too, because sometimes if I'm going to Facebook or Instagram only, I'll check it on the other uncalibrated display first to see how that looks on there. And so, you know, that may sort of help you. But yeah, calibration is a really important thing, and it's something that you always have to do. So that's all I can say is I'm using the LGs I've found are fine. I haven't got I mean, it was a high-ended when I bought it, but as long as you use calibration on them, you should be able to match it fairly well. Brett says, buy A7 III for a 500 bonus EFP through DigiDirect at the moment. Yes, well, that's available through Sony, Brett. It's Sony have announced that because I got the email from Sony to say that that's available now here in Australia. So you get $500 off the A7 A7R3 at the moment if you do that. Joe says, speaking of lenses, I love my GM 85 1.4. However, the new RF50 1.4 is beyond belief. I may never take this lens off my camera. Yeah, that would be a great lens. It really would be a great lens. Mark says, just a general question. Is there a wait listing app for travel? Do I, like I do virtual pack and can tell what my combined camera gear will be? No, I don't, Mark. I usually just work out what I'm taking, put it in the bag and then stand on a scale and then just subtract that amount off. That's usually the way that I work it out. But I don't know if there's any apps or anything like that available that will work it out for you. That's just the simplest way I do it. I'll weigh myself first on the scale, then I'll fill the bag up and step on and see what the difference is, and that will tell me immediately how much everything weighs. Mark also said, at the moment I use my own numbers Excel template to do just that. Yep. Now, I don't think there's an app that's available, but someone else may know one. Benjamin Baker Photography said, oh yeah, I'm sure, laugh out loud, I'm shooting a football game this coming Saturday. I would love to use one. What was that, Benjamin? I can't remember what we were talking about. Oh, that was a 100 to 400, yep. DL said, I can't find that Type Alpha personality t-shirt anyway. Did Dave tell you where he got it? No, he didn't, DL. He didn't tell me at all. Perhaps I'm just special. Perhaps I'm the only one that has those t-shirts in the world. I'm not sure. I do love them though. So now I've got the orange version and I've got the black version as well. I can't wait to give Kiara hers and take a photo of her wearing it, because you know what? That really will piss off the Canon fanboys. I'll get 1 million downvotes. I can't wait to see that. That'll be so funny. Is there any other questions, guys? Like I said, I don't know how many people are going to ask questions because this was unplanned and we haven't got as many watching. I think there's 80 watching. I'm often up near the 200 now, so there's nowhere near because it's a different time of day. But you can too, like I said, if you want to know, I think it's probably Kerry calling me. Yes, it is. If you'd like to, obviously check on Friday. I'll have that live video up. I'll have the new live rumors up on Friday. So you might want to see me through there. Also, any questions, I'd love to see what guys think about that 100 to 400. Would you be interested in that particularly? I'd love to know that as well, if that does interest you. And I think like I said, I think we're very lucky now. Tamron obviously have seen the writing on the wall and they've seen their sales that they've got, and they really are going to start pushing the Sony line. And they've said that 70 to 200, they were going to produce that for Sony first before anything else. So it's really interesting the way that things are changing, and you know that they just want to be in the market leader, obviously. Ben said, what's your opinion about flying with camera gear? Do you take it as carry-on? Yep, I only ever take it as carry-on, Ben. I have had to check it once. When I came back from the States, I got flagged by Qantas and they weighed my bag and it was too heavy, so I had to check it. But I took everything I could out and put it all on my body and stuff like that. I'll always try. I don't really have any issues anymore. Since I've gone mirrorless, I don't have issues anymore with trying to reach that weight limit. Because the Sony lenses and cameras are so light. When I shot Nikon, I had trouble every single time I flew, Ben, because they were so heavy. And I could never meet that 7 kilogram weigh on. And the problem is, here in Australia, they always check your weight. And it's a real problem, because then they'll say you've got to check it in. And I'm nervous because I know how they handle that sort of stuff. It is insured, but it doesn't help you if the camera gears gets damaged and then you get somewhere and you can't get to somewhere to get another body or something like that. You know, you could be in real trouble. So it's a problem. But I've found with my Sony gear, I can always meet that camera limit sort of, you know, within that 7 kilos. I always check in, though, my tripod, things like that, my light stands, anything like that side of it gets checked in on the baggage, because I don't really care if that gets damaged or gets lost. I can still get by with that. But I'll always carry my camera and my lenses and the flashes, the things that I have to have, say, to do that wedding or whatever I'm going interstate to do, or overseas. Anything I have to have with me, I'll put on me. Now, even if I have to have a jacket and put it inside a jacket, I'd do that if I had to. But I'll always check in things like, you know, the light stands and tripods and stuff like that. Lewis says he's back again. Have the 400 GM, which is a beast. Yeah, it is a great lens, that for sure. Tamron may also be a very good lens, though. It's going to be interesting. Mike said, just wanted to say how nice these videos and community are. I really appreciate how down to earth everyone is. And that's one of the great things, Mike, about people that are obviously following me. Like I said, it's like a bunch of mates talking around a table having a drink. You know, and that's what I love about that so much. It's the same in the photography, videography school. The second any of I see or my moderators will see someone being nasty, like can happen in a lot of the other sites, they're going to get booted. I'm not going to put up with it at all, because I want everyone to have that friendly environment where no one's afraid to ask any questions without some, horrible person pulling or tearing them to pieces when they probably haven't got any work themselves. And that's the interesting thing about it. Those ones that usually do that, like drag people through the mud saying their work's no good or whatever, particularly new people that are asking for advice, usually you'll find that the people actually doing that critique who are nasty never have work themselves. And that's the interesting thing about it. It's like always the people that criticize me in their comments in YouTube, you challenge them and they'll never ever show you their work because they haven't got any. They're just sitting at home in their basement, in their mother's basement, waiting for their dinner to be served or their laundry to be washed by their mother. That's the type of people they are. And I won't put up with any of that at all. I just hate these prima donnas that just want to cause trouble. So that means a lot to me saying that it is. I like people to be like a bunch of mates. It doesn't mean you can't bag each other, of course, but that's friendly. It's when people get nasty and put down people's work, I don't like it. What else have we got? Haas said, David, I see those dislike T-shirts in the near future. I love it. Ben said, have you ever flown with strobes or just camera lenses, etc.? Yeah, I have flown with strobes, Ben. If it was full-on strobes, I'd have to check it in, though, because they get too big to carry. You could take the Profoto B10, though. That's quite small. You could carry that on your carry-on if you wanted to. So if you had something like that, or say a Godox, the 200, you'd probably be able to carry that on as well because it's very small. So that might be what you'd have to consider if you were going to do traveling, to have the Godox, the AD200. You could take that on, obviously, because it's so small. But if you were dealing with the 600 or 500 watt strobes, they're getting too big to carry and you'd have to check it in. But I'd always make sure that I'm carrying a flashing case. Because remember, you have to go, if you're being paid to do a shoot, you have to think, what if I get there and that gear doesn't show up? So you've got to cover yourself to say, okay, well, if it doesn't show up, I can still get by using my normal off-camera flash, your normal strobe. I can use that, or you could have a Godox AD200 and you could carry one of them. Normally you might carry two, but you could carry one on the plane just in case to cover yourself. That's important. Mark said there was an issue Brendan Von Son was talking about travel weight with Emirates. Well, we're finding it's getting worse and worse. As airlines are getting cheaper, they're getting a lot stricter with the baggage, because basically they're giving a price for carry-on luggage only, and they're pretty smart on this, that they'll say, well, the only way they can get people is to hit people with excess baggage. So you're probably going to find that they're going to start charging people more and more for excess baggage. So you're going to have to think smart about it. I usually try to keep it within the limit. And then if it goes over that limit, I'll have the extra in a jacket. I'll put a jacket on and then I'll throw a lens in there, or I'll put a camera on with just the lens cover on it, and stick that in. Particularly the Sony cameras are that small that they can fit in an inside pocket if you don't have a lens on them, and that's the way that I'll often work. If you need to. Once you're on the plane, then you could take it out and put it in the bag. They won't check again, and that's the way I'll often do it. You can buy jackets, like fishing jackets, if you wanted to, that are designed like that with a million pockets inside, and you can stick stuff in that. I've seriously been thinking about getting something like that for when I travel, and then I can stick things inside. But now, like I'm shooting Sony and I try and shoot minimalistically, I can get by with usually under that 7 kilogram limit. And that works great, apart from the tripod and light stands, which I have to put in the checked baggage. Haas says, have you ever had security check at the airport where they deny you get? No, I haven't. I always get checked because I've always got so much gear, you know what I mean? Like I'm carrying all the cameras and everything else and drones or whatever. I've often had to take them out, but I've never had anyone deny anything. I got stopped when I went to the UK, and they questioned me for about half an hour. They thought that I was going there for work, particularly after they found that I was a professional photographer. But I did explain to them that I was going there to visit my auntie, and I gave addresses. They were checking all these sort of things, and they eventually let me in. But I think they were worried that I was going there for work. I wasn't. I was actually only going to visit my auntie and travel as a tourist around England. But the second they found out I was a professional photographer, you know, then they see you with gear and they think you're going in for work. But they did let me in. Michelle says, I'm going to the Caribbean for a work project and I'm a wee bit nervous, but also excited. That sounds fantastic. Just don't admit that you're going there for work, though, Michelle, because they could deny you entry if you do say that you are working. So just be careful about that. I wouldn't even be posting on Facebook or anything like that you're doing it for work, because if you do that and they check, they can deny you entry. So you've got to be very, very careful about that happening. It's something you do always have to consider if you're going for work anywhere overseas, particularly. If you're going to Thailand, for instance, you can be arrested. So you've got to be very, very careful if you go to Thailand that you don't go there for work. Because if you're caught, you can be in all sorts of trouble. They were arresting a lot of Chinese because a lot of the Chinese go there for work. And they were arresting the makeup artists and also the Chinese photographers. And I think it's something like $20,000 or something if you get caught there as well. Because photography is a protected industry in Thailand. So you have to be very, very careful. And if you get a policeman that might want to, you know, say you've got to give me some money or I'm going to arrest you, you've got to be very careful. So be very careful about working overseas if you haven't got a work permit. It's very hard in Australia too. You will be denied entry to Australia if they believe you're coming here for work. And that happens a lot. So be careful. What else have we got? Langston Ball says, good evening everyone, or morning or midday. Mark said, whatever is on your body is not counted, which is way out. Yeah, it's not. And that's the way you can get around that 7 kilogram limit or whatever it is. It's you can get by with carrying it on your body. Mike says, is that really pop in a can? Yes, it really is. It's Fanta. It's not Fanta like my Friday discussions. Michelle said, make sure it's a work visa. Yeah, that's the thing you've got to be careful of, or go in and say you're going as a tourist and then hopefully you won't get caught. But yeah, you do have to consider it if you're going for work. Mike says, ever heard of Scotty Vest? They're great for photographers. That's what I was talking about, Mike. Yeah, and they're great because you can have all these pockets and stuff like that. Like I said, fishing jackets are also really good because they also have 1 million pockets as well. And often it'll be cheaper if you go and buy that sort of a jacket than particularly a photography one. Everything with photography is expensive. Dr. Exclusive says, hi, how are you? Reuven says, David, any plans for 24 1.4G Master? Yes, definitely. I just don't know when. I just don't need it at the moment, but it's definitely in my plans somewhere down the line. Yes, definitely, because particularly to put on a gimbal, I'd love to have that lens for a gimbal because it's so light. So yes, definitely. Langston said, wow, these travel work visas are a real issue, it sounds like. Yeah, they are. This is the thing too you've got to consider. Remember, what you've got to be careful about is if you travel overseas and you get caught doing it. Now, a lot of countries, like for instance, if you went to the UK or if you went to the US, you may get caught and then you may not then get back in if there's an issue, but you're far less likely to get in real trouble if you go, say, to the US or somewhere like that. But if they know you're coming in for work, you'll be denied entry. So this is something that you have to think about. Or if they find out you were there and you were working, next time you go in, you will be banned. And this is what you've got to consider. What you've got to be careful about, and like Ben said, happened to Jason, yeah. What you've got to be careful about is if you go to places like Thailand, because if you go to places like that, like in Asia, you can be arrested and then you're in deep shit. So this is what you have to think about countries like that, it's not worth it. I was asked to do a wedding in Thailand. I accepted it, and I was being paid to go over. They were giving me accommodation, everything. And I found out what actually happened if you do go there and you're caught. And then I decided, no, I had to tell the bride I was so sorry, because I think there was a couple of months to go beforehand. But I couldn't go. And she understood when I showed her the rules about how it's a protected industry in Thailand. And if you're caught, you really are in big trouble. Like, you can go to jail, or you can be given this fine of, I can't remember what it was, but it was a lot. And then you'd never get back into Thailand again. And it's an issue. And they were arresting Chinese and photographers and Chinese makeup artists who were going in there at that time. Now, you may not get caught. That's the thing, you may not. But there's always a chance you could. There's always a chance that you'll get some switched-on police officer in countries like Thailand that are then going to hit you for massive bribes. And that's the thing that you've got to consider. You have to be very careful, particularly in Asian countries, and I just don't think it's worth it. Whether it's worth it in other countries, like going into the UK or the US or here into Australia, it can be an issue. I think that's why Jason Lanier was stopped from coming here to Australia. He's been banned. So, it's a problem. Langston said, so you do need a sponsor to ensure you go to these countries for work. What's the normal procedure to be official? Well, I know if you're coming into Australia, Langston, that you have to apply for a work visa. And there's very little chance you're probably going to get it. That's the thing you've got to consider. It depends on the country, but I know if you go into the US, you also have to apply for a work visa to go in if you're going to actually get work for paying work. That's why if I was going to do workshops, for instance, I'd probably have to apply for that type of workshop to come out there. If I was just coming out for just to see you guys and then have a walk around and there was no money involved, well, then it wouldn't be an issue. I could just come out as a tourist. But if you're going to earn money, you've got to be very, very careful. Because remember, you are taking money away from the local photographers. So there is an issue there that you have to consider as well, that if you do go to other countries, you're taking work away from those people who make a living there. And, I probably should have thought about that before I said, like, Thailand. Like, if you go to Thailand, you're taking work away from them there. So you have to apply for a work visa, yes, if you go into another country. I'm now shooting weddings. Is the APS-C Sony 10-18f4 any good for video? Yeah, it is good. I use that all the time. There's a fair bit of distortion, though, if you're dealing with the 10mm, so you've got to keep that in mind. And remember, video, you can't really fix the distortion, so you do have to consider that. But it works great. It really does. Langston said, Ben Ashford on that Cuba trip he did. No, he's talking about, I think Jason had a problem coming into Australia, Langston. Charles said, Fanta or vodka? Fanta, definitely. Sony A7R3 versus the A7 III. It depends what you're shooting. If you want general photography and you don't need to crop in, I'd get the A7 III. If you need resolution, like if you're shooting landscape, if you're shooting architecture or just shooting portraits in a studio, the A7R3 is the one. If you want to shoot video or if you want to shoot normal portraiture, events, things like that, the A7 III is the better camera. If you need to crop, A7R3 is the better camera. Both great cameras though. Haas says, all these various rules and laws are the reason I'm hesitant to turn the hobby into a career. None of my family or relatives have ever been to jail. The chance of you going to jail are very, very slim, and that's the thing. But it could destroy you being able to travel later on, though, and that's the thing that you've got to consider. You really do have to be careful about that. When do you think the A7S III will come out? And also, when will the Tamron 70-200 come out? The A7S III, I still believe probably will be in the third quarter, probably around NAB. The 70-200 we don't know yet, probably sometime next year. Mike says, Canada will ban you for a year if you come for work without a permit. They will check your phone and email. And this is the thing, I agree, Mike. This is what happens. They have every right to check your social media sites. And this is where you have to be careful. They can easily go online. When you say, if I come in and I've got on there that I'm a photographer, and then you say, basically when they check as you come into the country, they can check Facebook, David Osler Images, and they could see that you're a working professional. Now, if you've then said, yes, I'm going to America for work, or I'm going to Canada for work, you're screwed. So, this is the thing that you have to be very, very careful about. Australia particularly is very, very strict on coming into Australia for work. If they have any scent at all that you're coming into Australia to work, you will not get in here and they'll send you home. You've lost your whole airfare and your whole trip. So you have to consider that. They're not stupid. They're very, very clever about this. And if they sense that you're coming here to Australia for work as a photographer or any other work, you'll be kicked out. You'll be booted out straight away and you'll be sent home. They won't even give you access. And I'm sure America and Cuba are the same. So you have to be careful. And Mike, you're right. Canada, I'm sure, is exactly the same. Langston said, noted, make sure my paperwork is in order. Exactly. If that's correct, if you are caught. What else have we got? Michelle said, that's good to know about Thailand and Australia. I'm covered in that I'm a US citizen going to the US Virgin Islands. Yeah, well, there you go. So you are covered, Michelle. Yeah, it's just if you're going to another country. For instance, I think I can go to New Zealand. Well, I'm sure I can, actually. I can go to New Zealand for work because we have Australia and New Zealand have a visa that is lets you work in both countries. So I can go to New Zealand to work, but I certainly can't go to the US, and I certainly can't go to England, and I can't go to Thailand or whatever. Actually, I can go to England because I have a British passport because my parents were English. Haas says, David, so these travel YouTubers don't count. They are technically working and making money off videos. Well, they technically are. If they're earning money on it, they could be stopped, and that's what you've got to watch. Eventually, they could say, no, you're not coming in because you're making work. But they're not probably making money from there at that time. Like they haven't gone, say, for instance, if I went to the US, I'm not making money and grabbing US money while I'm there working. I've come back and then I'm probably making money. I think that probably will be counted as being different. But certainly if I went to the US and I charge workshops and I haven't got a working visa, I'm not saying I would never do that. But if I did do it and I'm caught, I could then technically be blocked the next time I come in. So you've got to be careful. I mean, the chances if I went to the US and worked there, and it was cash, the chances are it would be very hard to get caught. But if you did, you could get in trouble. What else have we got? Dan said, I wonder how Matt Granger got around things. Matt Granger got citizenship. So he got the green card, is it? He got that to go into the US. Langston said, I was thinking the exact same thing. Yeah, he definitely got a green card. Glenn Moss says, hi David, any plans to come to the UK anytime soon? Photography showing in NEC in March. Maybe next year, Glenn. I'll certainly let people know. I may go to the US and I may also go to the UK. I'm not sure yet, but I certainly will let you guys know because we'd have some meetups. Mark said, Jason Lanier was not actually caught, laugh out loud, but was found out to be receiving money, earning money while in Australia through workshops, hence blocked him from travelling here in Oz. That's why I'm saying you've got to be careful because if they find out, you will be blocked when you come back, and that's what you've got to be careful about. Yeah, and that's the thing that you've got to get through. You have to get a work permit. It's very important. Thanks for your feedback, no worries. What if a professional photographer enters other country with a tourist visa? Well, if you're going there for work, it's the same problem. You'll be banned next time you go in if you're caught. Or you could be thrown back. For instance, if you came into Australia and they know you've got a tourist visa, but they know you're coming here for work and they could check, like for instance, if you've said through Facebook you're going there to shoot a wedding or whatever, you'd be banned entry. So yeah, you've got to be very, very careful. Jean says, do you still have to apply for a work visa if you're just shooting models, locals or otherwise? If your portfolio does that, it falls into a grey area. If money's been exchanged, I think yes. If money's been exchanged at all, I think yes. I'm not sure if you're paying someone, you're probably okay. But if they're paying you, Yes. I think if you're paying them, you'd be fine because you haven't earned money going in. Mark says this is also to protect local photographers, and it makes sense. Yeah, well, it does, Mark, and I agree with you. It does. Yep, Matt Granger got a green card and lives in the US. Yep, exactly. Haas says, Langston, yes, I thought about it once. The whole international work permit was mentioned, and they're not easy to get. The second you actually want work permits, it becomes very, very hard, and they take a long time to get. So you've got to plan well in advance if you want to actually get work permits to go into a country. So it really is, like an interesting discussion. Guys, you really should consider it. If you're going to make money in other countries like that, you really should consider the local laws. I think it's just something just to cover yourself if you're making money in those areas. All right, guys. Law and Order Special Photography. I love it. Langston said there as well. That's quite funny. I'm going to go and have dinner, guys. So basically, thanks for all tuning in. Any other questions, please leave down below. I'd love to know your opinion about all this. Sabir says, but you can shoot travel photos and videos. Yes, because you're not earning money, Sabir. That's fine. You can go out there and shoot, if you go on safari, you can shoot that sort of stuff. But a lot of people probably don't get the working visas. But, I couldn't organise, say, a safari going to, say, Africa, and then I go into Africa and then Africans are paying me money to go in there because that's where it starts to get illegal. And then you could get in trouble. But they may not stop it because they're also earning money from tourism. But, it depends on the country. But like I said, if you shoot a wedding in Thailand and you're caught, you are in deep trouble. And that's the thing that you've got to be careful about. You can't even say you're a guest because they'll check you're a professional photography and then you're not going to have any excuse. If they know you're a professional photography over there, you're going to be in deep, so you've got to be very, very careful. All right, guys. Thanks for the live. Please tune in Friday for the live show, the Sony News and Rumours. That'll be Friday at 1 p.m. Melbourne time. And I'll see you all then. So apart from that, leave all your questions down below. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And I'd love you to give me a thumbs up too, guys, because it means other people watch the video. See you all again soon, guys. Bye for now.